It was a sunny Tuesday morning when 7-year-old Lily first saw him. Her family had traveled to London for a short vacation, and like every tourist, they ended up at Buckingham Palace. Her mom and dad were busy taking selfies, trying to get the perfect shot with the palace in the background. Her older brother was complaining about being hungry, but Lily noticed something else. Standing perfectly still like a statue was a royal guard. His red uniform was so bright it almost hurt to look at. The tall black hat on his head made him look like a giant. His face showed no expression at all. Not a smile, not a frown, nothing. Most people walked past him, barely giving him a second glance. Some tourists took photos. A few tried to make him laugh or move, but he stayed frozen. Lily felt something strange in her chest. She looked at this guard and thought about how lonely it must be to stand there all day. Nobody talked to him like a real person. Everyone treated him like part of the scenery, like the palace walls or the gates. That made her sad. Without thinking too much about it, Lily walked a bit closer. Not too close because her parents had taught her to be respectful, but close enough that he could see her clearly. She raised her small hand and waved. Just a simple, friendly wave, the kind you give to a neighbor or a friend. The guard didn't move. Of course he didn't, that was his job. But Lily could have sworn she saw something change in his eyes. Just for a split second. Maybe a tiny sparkle, maybe a slight softening. She couldn't be sure, but she felt it. She smiled at him, a big, genuine smile that showed her slightly crooked front teeth. Her mother called out, "Lily, come on. We need to go see Big Ben before lunch." But Lily didn't move right away. She kept looking at the guard, and in her heart she felt like he was looking back at her. Not just at her, but seeing her, really seeing her. "Thank you for standing here," she said softly, even though she knew he couldn't respond. It must be really hard. Her father walked over and took her hand. "Come on, sweetheart. The guard has work to do." As they started walking away, Lily turned back one more time. She waved again, bigger this time, and she whispered, even though nobody could hear her, "I'll come back and see you again. I promise." Her mom laughed when Lily told her about the guard on the way to their next stop. "Oh, honey, there are lots of guards there. You probably won't see the same one again." But something inside Lily disagreed. She felt certain she would recognize him if she saw him again. The family lived in a town just outside London, about an hour away by train. It wasn't too far, but it wasn't close enough to visit every day either. Still, as they rode the train home that evening, Lily pressed her face against the window and thought about the guard. She wondered what his name was, if he had a family, if he liked his job, if anyone ever thanked him for standing there all day. That night, Lily asked her grandmother about the royal guards during their weekly phone call. Her grandmother, who knew everything about everything, explained that being a guard was a great honor. These were real soldiers, highly trained, who protected the royal family. They had to stand completely still for hours. They couldn't scratch their nose, couldn't swat away flies, couldn't react to anything. "That sounds really, really hard," Lily said. "It is, dear," her grandmother replied. "It takes a special kind of strength." Lily fell asleep that night thinking about the guard. In her dreams, she saw him smile. Just a small smile, but it was there. When she woke up the next morning, she had made a decision. She didn't know how, but she was going to see that guard again, and she was going to make sure he knew that at least one person in the world saw him as a real person, not just a tourist attraction. 2 weeks later, Lily convinced her grandmother to take her back to London. Her grandmother loved spending time with her, and she was always up for an adventure. They took the train together, just the two of them. Lily brought along a small notebook where she had written down everything she wanted to tell the guard. When they arrived at Buckingham Palace, Lily's heart beat faster. There were several guards on duty that day. She walked past the first one, then the second. Her grandmother followed patiently, not asking questions. Then Lily saw him. She knew it was him. She could tell by the small scar above his left eyebrow. It was barely visible, but she had noticed it during her first visit. She walked to her spot, the same place she had stood before. The guard's eyes flickered just slightly. Did he recognize her too? Lily thought maybe he did. She waved just like before, and then she did something new. She started talking. "Hi," she said quietly. "I came back. I told you I would. My name is Lily, and I'm 7 years old. Well, almost 8. My birthday is in 2 months. She paused, feeling a little silly talking to someone who couldn't answer. But then she remembered why she was there. I just wanted you to know that I think what you do is really important. And I think you're really brave. The guard, whose name was Thomas Hartley, though Lily didn't know that yet, felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Warmth. This little girl had actually come back. She had remembered him. In his 15 years of military service, thousands of people had walked past him. Millions, probably. But nobody had ever done this. Lily talked for a few more minutes, telling him about her school and her pet hamster. Then her grandmother gently touched her shoulder. "We should let the guard do his work, dear." Lily nodded. She waved goodbye and said, "I'll come back soon. I promise." As they walked away, Thomas stood perfectly still as he was trained to do. But inside something had shifted. For the first time in months he felt seen. He felt human. And he realized that this little girl, with her simple kindness, had given him a gift he didn't even know he needed. That day marked the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. A friendship without words, a connection without conversation, and a bond that would change both of their lives forever. 3 weeks after her second visit, Lily was back at Buckingham Palace. This time her grandmother didn't need any convincing. She had seen how happy it made Lily, and honestly she enjoyed their little adventures together. They started going every few weeks, always on a Saturday morning when the crowds weren't too crazy. Lily had developed a system. She would scan all the guards on duty until she found Thomas. She always recognized him by that small scar above his eyebrow. Sometimes he was on the left side of the gate, sometimes on the right. Once she almost gave up looking, but then spotted him at a different post entirely. Her face had lit up like a Christmas tree. She always stood in the same spot when she talked to him. Close enough to be respectful, but not so close that other guards would think she was causing trouble. And talk she did. Oh boy, did she talk. "Hi, it's me again," she would start as if they were old friends meeting for coffee. "So something really funny happened at school this week." Then she would tell him everything. About how her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, accidentally sat on a paint palette and walked around with a blue handprint on her skirt all day. About how she finally learned to do a cartwheel in gymnastics class. About how her goldfish, Mr. Bubbles, kept swimming upside down and she was worried he was sick. Thomas, standing in his rigid pose, couldn't respond. He couldn't nod, couldn't smile, couldn't give any sign that he was listening. But he heard every single word. During his 15-minute breaks, when he could finally move and rest, he found himself thinking about Lily's stories. He wondered if Mr. Bubbles was okay. He hoped she did well on her spelling test. He silently cheered when she told him she made the school choir. His fellow guards started to notice. During their private moments in the guard room, someone would ask, "Is your little friend coming today?" At first, Thomas felt embarrassed, but then he realized they weren't making fun of him. They were genuinely interested. Some of them had even seen Lily and thought what she was doing was sweet. One guard, David, said, "You know, mate, in all my years doing this, nobody's ever treated me like that. Like a real person. That kid's got something special." Thomas agreed completely. For Lily, these visits became the highlight of her month. She would mark the dates on her calendar with a gold star. The night before each visit, she would plan what she wanted to talk about. She started keeping a little journal where she wrote down interesting things that happened, so she wouldn't forget to tell him. Her parents thought it was a cute phase that would pass. Kids get obsessed with things, they reasoned. Next month it might be horses or dinosaurs. But her grandmother knew better. She saw something deeper in Lily's devotion. The child wasn't just fascinated by a guard in a fancy uniform. She genuinely cared about him as a person. "Why do you like visiting him so much?" her grandmother asked one day on the train ride home. Lily thought about it carefully. "I don't know, Gran. I just think about how hard his job must be. Standing there all day while people take pictures and try to make him laugh. Nobody sees him, you know? They see the uniform and the hat, but not him. I want him to know that somebody sees him." Her grandmother's eyes got a little watery. "You have a very kind heart, Lily." As months passed, the visits continued through different seasons. In autumn, Lily wore her school uniform and a warm jacket. She told Thomas about jumping in leaf piles and how her dad made the best hot chocolate. In winter, she bundled up in a puffy coat and scarf. She complained about the cold but said she didn't mind because she wanted to see him. She told him about Christmas shopping and how she was trying to save money to buy her mom a special present. Thomas noticed all of this. He saw her growing, changing, maturing. He watched as she lost one of her front teeth, then the other. She showed him the gap in her smile and told him the tooth fairy had left her 2 pounds under her pillow. He saw when she got new glasses, purple frames that she was self-conscious about at first. "Do you think they look silly?" she asked him. Of course he couldn't answer, but she seemed to find reassurance in his steady presence anyway. What Lily didn't know was that Thomas was going through his own difficult time. His marriage was falling apart. He and his wife had separated and divorce papers were being prepared. Some days, putting on that uniform and standing at his post felt impossible. The loneliness was crushing. He felt invisible, not just to the tourists but to life itself. But then Lily would show up. This little girl who had no idea what he was dealing with, who couldn't possibly understand adult problems, somehow made everything better. Her cheerful voice, her silly stories, her genuine care. It reminded him that life had bright spots, that human connection mattered, that he mattered. There was one Saturday when Lily arrived looking upset. Her eyes were red and she wasn't smiling. Thomas noticed immediately, though his face remained expressionless. She stood in her usual spot but didn't start talking right away. Instead, she just looked at him with sad eyes. Finally, she spoke, her voice shaky. "My gran says I'm old enough to understand now, so she told me the truth. My mom and dad have been arguing a lot. They might not stay together. They might get something called a divorce." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm scared everything's going to change." Thomas's heart broke. He wanted so badly to break protocol, to kneel down and tell her it would be okay, to share that he was going through the exact same thing, to tell her that she was strong enough to handle it. But he couldn't. All he could do was stand there and listen. Lily wiped her tears. "But you know what? Coming here helps. You're always here, always the same. Even when everything else is confusing, I know you'll be here." "Does that sound weird?" She sniffled. "My friend at school says I'm strange for talking to a guard who can't talk back. But I don't think it's strange. I think you're my friend. Is that okay?" If Thomas could have spoken, he would have said yes, 1,000 times yes. He would have told her that she was his friend, too. That she had gotten him through some of the darkest days of his life without even knowing it. Lily stayed a little longer that day. She talked about smaller things, trying to cheer herself up. She told him about a funny video she saw of a cat afraid of a cucumber. She described the new art project they were doing in school. And slowly, her smile came back. When it was time to go, she waved like always. But this time she added something new. "Thank you for listening. Even though you can't answer, I know you hear me. And that means everything." As she walked away with her grandmother, Thomas stood at attention, his eyes forward. But inside, he was different. This little girl had chosen him out of everyone in the world to trust with her worries. She had made him her safe place. And in doing so, she had become his safe place too. The ritual had begun as something simple. A wave, a few words, a kind gesture. But it had grown into something neither of them fully understood yet. Something powerful. Something rare. A friendship that existed in silence, but spoke volumes about the human need for connection, understanding, and the simple act of showing up for someone, even when they can't show up for you in return. Years had a funny way of passing. What started when Lily was 7 continued when she was 8, then 9, then 10. The visits never stopped. Rain or shine, cold or warm, Lily kept coming back. Her grandmother remained her faithful companion for every trip, never once suggesting they should skip a visit or find a new activity. Thomas watched Lily grow up in snapshots. Every few weeks he saw small changes. Her face lost its baby roundness and became more defined. She grew taller, her head reaching higher and higher against his uniform until one day she was almost at his shoulder height. The gap-toothed smile was replaced by adult teeth, which then got covered by braces with pink rubber bands. She went through phases where she loved wearing her hair in braids, then a ponytail, then loose around her shoulders. But some things never changed. Her kindness, her genuine interest in sharing her life with him, her ability to find joy in small things and then spread that joy to him through her stories. When spring came, Lily talked about the flowers blooming in their garden. "My mom planted tulips, the yellow ones. They're so bright they almost look fake," she told him. She described helping her dad build a birdhouse and how a family of robins had already moved in. She brought him updates on the baby birds, reporting each milestone like a proud aunt. "They opened their eyes today. Well, I didn't see it happen, but my dad said they did. Summer brought different stories. Lily talked about swimming lessons and how she finally managed to swim the length of the pool without stopping. She described family barbecues and eating so many burgers she felt sick. She told him about vacation trips to the seaside where she collected shells and built sandcastles. "I built one with a moat and everything, but then the tide came in and destroyed it," she said sadly. Gran said that's life sometimes. You build something beautiful and then it disappears, but you can always build another one. Thomas absorbed every word. During his breaks, when he could finally relax his posture and rest his aching legs, he would think about Lily's observations. For someone so young, she sometimes said things that were surprisingly wise. Her grandmother was clearly teaching her well. Autumn became a season of school stories. By the time Lily was 11, she was in secondary school, facing new challenges. She told Thomas about the stress of changing classes, having different teachers, making new friends. "It's scary," she admitted. "Everyone seems to know what they're doing except me. I got lost trying to find my science classroom yesterday. I ended up in the music room by accident." She talked about homework struggles, especially with mathematics. "Why do we need to learn algebra?" she groaned. "When am I ever going to use it?" Gran says education is important, but honestly, some days I just want to quit. Of course, the next visit she would report that she got a B on her math test and maybe it wasn't so bad after all. Winter was when their bond felt strongest. The cold months meant fewer tourists, which meant Lily could stand and talk without as many people staring or getting in the way. She would arrive bundled in layers, her nose red from the cold, her breath making little clouds in the air. One particularly cold December day when Lily was 12, she showed up looking different. Her usual cheerfulness was gone. Her eyes were puffy and she was crying quietly even as she approached. Thomas noticed immediately. Every protective instinct in his body screamed at him to move, to help her, but he remained frozen in position. Lily stood in her spot, but couldn't speak at first. She just cried. Finally, in a broken voice, she said, "Gran died last week." The words hit Thomas like a physical blow. The grandmother who had brought Lily here faithfully for 5 years. The woman who had made this whole friendship possible. Gone. "She had a heart attack," Lily continued, her voice shaking. "It was really sudden. She was fine one day and then—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "The funeral was yesterday. I wore her favorite color, blue. My mom said Gran would have liked that." Lily wiped her face with her sleeve. "I almost didn't come today. My mom said I didn't have to, that maybe I should take a break, but I needed to tell you. You knew her. You saw her every time she brought me here. She was special, wasn't she?" If Thomas could have cried, he would have. This woman had stood patiently, visit after visit, letting her granddaughter talk to a guard who couldn't respond. She had never rushed Lily, never complained about the trips, never suggested they do something else instead. She had understood, perhaps before anyone else, how important this connection was. Lily continued talking through her tears. "Gran told me something before she died. Well, not right before, but a few weeks ago. She said that the way I treat you, with respect and kindness even though I don't get anything back, that's what makes a good person. She said I should never stop being that way no matter how old I get." Lily's voice cracked. "I promised her I would keep visiting you. Even without her bringing me, I promised I would find a way." She stayed longer than usual that day. She told Thomas stories about her grandmother, about how she made the best shepherd's pie, about how she knew all the words to old songs and would sing them while doing dishes, about how she gave the best hugs, the kind that made you feel safe no matter what was wrong. "I'm going to miss her so much," Lily said finally, "but when I'm here talking to you, I feel close to her somehow. Does that make sense?" She looked at Thomas's face, searching for something she knew she wouldn't find. "I think she'd be happy that I'm still coming to see you." From that day forward, Lily came with her father. He was a quieter presence than her grandmother had been, usually standing farther back, checking his phone or reading the informational plaques around the palace. But he came every few weeks, making sure his daughter could maintain her ritual. As Lily entered her teenage years, the visits took on a new importance. She was 13, then 14, navigating the complicated world of adolescence. She told Thomas about friendship drama at school. "My best friend is mad at me because I talked to this boy she likes. But I didn't even know she liked him. How was I supposed to know? She never told me." She talked about feeling awkward in her own body, about hating her hair one day and loving it the next. about the pressure to fit in, to wear the right clothes, to listen to the right music. Sometimes I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not, she confessed. But when I'm here talking to you, I can just be me. You don't judge me. You don't care if my shoes are trendy or if I know the latest songs. Thomas, now in his late 30s and still serving, found himself caring deeply about Lily's struggles. He wanted to tell her that the things she worried about now wouldn't matter in 5 years. That true friends don't get mad over small misunderstandings. That being yourself is always better than pretending. But all he could do was stand and listen. There were happy times, too. Lily reported getting her first A in science. She described joining the drama club and getting a small part in the school play. She talked about discovering her love for photography and showed him pictures on her phone, holding them up so he could see. I took this one at sunset. Do you like it? I entered it in a contest. Through every season, every year, every change in her life, Lily kept coming back, and Thomas kept listening. Their friendship existed outside normal rules. They had never had a two-way conversation. Thomas didn't know Lily's last name or where exactly she lived. Lily didn't know Thomas's name, his age, or anything about his life beyond his role as a guard. But they knew each other in ways that mattered more. They knew loyalty. They knew consistency. They knew that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone is simply show up, time and time again, without expecting anything in return. As Lily's 14th birthday approached, neither of them knew that their unique friendship was about to face its biggest test. Change was coming, the kind that couldn't be avoided, and both of them, in their own ways, would have to decide just how much this silent bond really meant. By the time Lily turned 14, something had shifted in their relationship. She no longer just told Thomas about her daily life. She started sharing her real thoughts, her deep feelings, the things she couldn't tell anyone else. He had become her secret keeper, her silent confidant, the one person who would never interrupt, never judge, never repeat what she said. It started small. One Saturday in early spring, Lily arrived looking thoughtful. She stood in her usual spot and said, "Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone else?" Then, without waiting for the answer she knew wouldn't come, she continued, "I'm scared about growing up. Everyone acts like being a teenager is supposed to be fun, but honestly, it's really hard. I feel like I'm supposed to have everything figured out, but I don't. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know if my friends actually like me or if they just tolerate me. I don't even know who I am half the time." Thomas listened intently. He understood more than Lily could know. He remembered being 14, feeling lost and confused, trying to figure out where he fit in the world. That uncertainty was part of what had led him to the military, seeking structure and purpose. Lily kept talking. "My mom wants me to focus on my studies. She says good grades will open doors. My dad wants me to pursue my interests, whatever makes me happy. But what if I don't know what makes me happy? What if I'm just supposed to figure it all out on my own and I can't?" She sighed deeply. "I know you can't answer. But somehow saying it out loud to you makes it feel less heavy. Does that make sense?" Week after week, Lily shared more. She told Thomas about her first real crush, a boy in her English class named Jack. "He has really nice eyes and he's funny. He made a joke about Shakespeare the other day and I laughed so hard I snorted. It was so embarrassing." Her cheeks turned pink at the memory. "I don't think he likes me back, though. He probably thinks I'm weird." She reported every small interaction with Jack like it was front-page news. When he borrowed a pen from her, when he said hi in the hallway, when they got paired for a group project, Thomas found himself invested in this teenage romance, silently hoping things would work out for her. When they didn't, when Jack started dating another girl in their class, Lily came to Thomas with tears in her eyes. "I know it's stupid to be this upset about a boy who didn't even know I liked him," she said. "But it hurts anyway. My friends say there are plenty of other boys, but they don't understand. It's not about finding another boy. It's about feeling like I'm not good enough, you know?" She stayed longer that day, working through her feelings out loud. By the end of the visit, she was smiling again. "Thanks for letting me be sad without trying to fix it," she said. "Everyone else wants to make me feel better immediately. But sometimes you just need to feel sad for a while." The friendship dramas came next. Lily's best friend, Sophie, had betrayed her trust by sharing something Lily had told her in confidence. "I told her about my parents fighting at home," Lily explained, her voice angry and hurt. "And she went and told other people. Now everyone at school knows. They look at me with pity, like I'm some charity case. I'm so mad at her." But she was my best friend since primary school. How do you stop being friends with someone who's been there that long? Thomas wished desperately that he could offer advice. But perhaps his silence was its own form of wisdom. Lily worked through the problem herself, talking it out over several visits. She eventually decided to forgive Sophie, but with boundaries. I'll still be her friend, she concluded, but I won't tell her everything anymore. Some things need to stay private. The situation with her parents had gotten worse. Lily's father had moved out, and her parents were officially divorcing. She told Thomas about the awkward arrangement, spending weekdays with her mom and weekends with her dad. It's like having two separate lives, she said. At Mom's house, everything is quiet and tense. She's sad all the time but pretends she's fine. At Dad's new apartment, he tries too hard to make everything fun, like he's guilty or something. I just want things to be normal again, but I don't think they ever will be. She talked about feeling caught in the middle, like she had to choose sides even though both parents said she didn't. She talked about missing the way things used to be, when they were all together. I know they're happier apart, she admitted. They don't fight anymore. But I'm not happier. Is that selfish? Through all of this, Thomas stood and absorbed every word. During his breaks, he found himself thinking about Lily's problems more than his own. His divorce had been finalized 2 years ago, and he had settled into a new routine. He lived alone in a small flat, had his military duties and not much else. His ex-wife had remarried. His friends had slowly drifted away. The loneliness was constant except for these visits. Lily's presence every few weeks gave him something to look forward to. Her stories, even the sad ones, reminded him that life continued, that people connected, that emotions were universal. He wasn't alone in feeling lost sometimes. One day Lily didn't show up. Then another week passed, and another. 3 weeks went by with no visit. Thomas tried not to worry, but he did. Had something happened to her? Had she finally gotten tired of talking to a silent guard? Had she decided she was too old for this now? His fellow guards noticed his distraction. During a break, David asked, "Haven't seen your young friend lately. Everything all right?" Thomas shrugged, trying to hide his concern. But David knew. She'll be back, mate. That girl's been coming for years. She wouldn't just stop. On the 4th week, Thomas was at his post, trying not to scan the crowd too obviously. For a teenage girl, he had no right to miss this much. Then he heard it. "Sorry I'm late." Lily was hurrying toward him, her dad trailing behind. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but she was smiling. She took her usual position, slightly out of breath. "I'm so sorry I missed our visits," she said immediately. "I had the flu. Like really bad. I was in bed for 2 weeks. Then I had to catch up on all my schoolwork. I wanted to come sooner, but my dad said I needed to rest properly first." She paused, studying his face. "I missed you. Did you miss me?" "Well, I guess you can't answer that, but I hope you wondered where I was. Is that weird to say?" Relief washed over Thomas. She was okay. She had come back. The connection wasn't broken. Lily continued. "Being sick gave me a lot of time to think. And I realized something. These visits, talking to you, it's really important to me. More important than I even understood before. When I couldn't come, I felt like I was missing a part of my routine. Like something was off balance." She smiled softly. "You're a really good friend, you know that? Even though you can't talk back. Even though we've never had a real conversation. You're one of the best friends I have." She went on to tell him about her illness, about the fever dreams she had, about watching way too much television while recovering. She updated him on everything he'd missed at school, the drama, the gossip, the test she'd failed because she'd missed the review session. As she talked, Thomas felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. This girl needed him in whatever small way he could provide. His presence mattered to someone. His listening ear made a difference. He might not be able to speak words of comfort or advice, but his steady, unchanging presence gave her a safe space to be herself. Over the next few months, Lily continued to share her deepest thoughts. She talked about her anxiety before tests, her frustration with her appearance, her confusion about the future. She talked about missing her grandmother and wondering if she was proud of who Lily was becoming. She talked about feeling different from other kids her age. More sensitive, more thoughtful, maybe more lonely. "Sometimes I feel like nobody really understands me," she said one rainy afternoon. "Not my parents, not my friends, nobody. Except maybe you. Which is funny, right? Because you literally can't respond, but you listen. You really listen. I can tell. She smiled through tears. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be me. Thomas wanted to tell her that she had it backwards. He should be thanking her. She had given him more than she could possibly know. She had saved him from complete loneliness. She had reminded him that human connection could exist in the most unusual places. She had shown him that kindness doesn't need words, that friendship doesn't need conversation, that love can be silent and still be real. As Lily's 15th birthday approached, Thomas made a private vow. Whatever happened in his life, wherever his military career took him, he would try his best to be at that post when she came, because that girl, who had started visiting him when she was 7 years old, had become one of the most important people in his world. And he wanted to be there for her in the only way he could for as long as possible. Lily was 16 now, standing at the edge of something big. She arrived at Buckingham Palace on a Saturday morning in late March, and Thomas knew immediately that something was different. She had that look on her face, the one that mixed excitement with sadness, hope with fear. He had learned to read her expressions over the years, even from his frozen position. She walked to her usual spot, and for a moment, she just looked at him. Really looked at him. Her eyes were shiny with unshed tears. Thomas felt his chest tighten, though his face remained perfectly still. I have some news, Lily began, her voice already shaking. Really big news. She took a deep breath. I got accepted to university. In Scotland. Edinburgh, actually. It's an amazing school, and I'm going to study social work because I want to help people. I want to make a difference. Thomas felt proud and heartbroken at the same time. This girl who had been visiting him since she was 7 years old was going to university. She had grown up right before his eyes, and now she was moving forward with her life as she should. But Scotland was far away. Very far. Lily's voice cracked as she continued. The thing is, Edinburgh is really far from London. Like 6 or 7 hours by train. I'll be living there in student accommodation. I'll come home for holidays, but... She couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They spilled down her cheeks. I won't be able to visit you anymore. Not like this. Not every few weeks. She wiped her face with her sleeve, just like she used to do when she was little. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for 2 weeks now. I've been putting it off because saying it makes it real, you know? She laughed sadly. My dad thinks I'm being silly, getting this emotional about not being able to visit a guard at a palace. But it's not silly to me. You're not just a guard. She struggled to find the words. You've been here through everything. You were here when my gran died. You were here when my parents got divorced. You were here when my heart got broken, when I failed tests, when I succeeded at things, when I felt lost and alone. You've been the one constant thing in my life for 9 years. 9 years! That's more than half my life. Thomas wanted so badly to reach out, to tell her he understood, to thank her for those 9 years. They had been his constant too. His anchor. His reminder that the world still had good people in it. Lily pulled something out of her bag. A small package wrapped in blue paper with a silver ribbon. I know this is against the rules, she said, glancing around nervously. But I don't care. I needed to give you something. Something to remember me by, even though you probably can't keep it. Even though someone will probably take it away after I leave. She placed the package carefully at the base of his post on the ground by his feet. Inside is a photo album. I've been working on it for weeks. It has pictures from different stages of my life from when I was 7 until now. There are notes with each picture, explaining what was happening and what you meant to me during that time. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I wanted you to know that you mattered. That these visits weren't just something I did. They were something I needed. You helped me more than you'll ever know. She stepped back, tears flowing freely now. I wish you could talk back. Just once, I wish I could hear your voice. I wish I could know your name, know about your life. Know if these visits meant anything to you or if I was just some annoying kid bothering you while you tried to do your job. Lily stood there crying, not caring that tourists were staring. Her dad, standing several feet away, looked uncomfortable but didn't interrupt. He had learned over the years that these visits were important to his daughter in ways he didn't fully understand. I'm going to miss you so much, Lily said, her voice barely audible. I'm going to miss standing here telling you about my week. I'm going to miss seeing your face, knowing you're listening even though you can't respond. I'm going to miss feeling like someone truly hears me. She took a shaky breath. I want you to know that you changed my life. You taught me that presence matters. That showing up matters, that you don't need words to make an impact on someone. My gran used to say that some people come into your life and leave footprints on your heart. You left footprints on mine. Thomas's eyes stung, but he couldn't even blink to clear them. His heart was hammering in his chest. This goodbye hurt more than his divorce had. This girl had given him something precious. Proof that he mattered, that his existence had meaning beyond his duties. That connection was possible even in the strangest circumstances. Lily wiped her face again. I'm going to Edinburgh in September. That's 6 months away. I'll try to visit a few more times before I go, but I don't know if I can. It's going to be too hard knowing each visit might be the last one, so I'm saying goodbye now properly. She tried to smile but failed. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. She stood there for another minute, memorizing every detail of him, the way his uniform looked in the morning light, the scar above his eyebrow that she had used to identify him for so many years, the strong, steady way he stood like nothing could ever knock him down. I won't forget you, she promised, no matter where I go or what I do. I'll remember the guard at Buckingham Palace who let a little girl talk his ear off for 9 years and never once made her feel silly or annoying. She gave him one last watery smile. I hope your life is good. I hope you're happy. I hope someone is as kind to you as you've been to me, even if that kindness was just standing still and listening. Lily waved, just like she had done on that very first day when she was 7 years old. Then she turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Her dad put his arm around her as they left. Thomas stood at his post watching her go, unable to move, unable to call out, unable to do anything but let her walk out of his life. The package sat at his feet, against protocol, against rules, but he didn't care. Inside was a piece of his heart walking away, and he had no idea how to handle the loss. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, another guard came to relieve Thomas for his break. The moment he was released, Thomas carefully picked up the package. His superior officer would probably question it, maybe confiscate it, but Thomas didn't care. This was important. This mattered. In the privacy of the guardroom, with shaking hands, Thomas opened the package. The photo album was beautiful, handmade, with a blue cover and silver lettering that read, "To my silent friend." He opened it slowly. The first page had a photo of Lily at 7, gap-toothed and grinning, standing in front of Buckingham Palace. The note beside it read, "This was the first day I met you. I waved at you because you looked lonely. I wanted you to know someone saw you as a person, not just a uniform." Page after page showed Lily growing up. At 8 with her grandmother. At 10 with new glasses. At 12 looking sad after her gran died. At 14 pretending to be confident but looking uncertain. At 16 trying to look grown up but still having that same kind smile. Each photo had a note. This was when I failed my math test and you listened to me cry. This was when I got my first A and came to tell you first, even before my parents. This was when I felt invisible at school but visible here with you. The last page hit Thomas the hardest. It was a recent photo of Lily, looking directly at the camera with a soft smile. The note read, "You taught me that the most powerful relationships don't need words. You taught me that showing up is sometimes the greatest gift you can give. You taught me to see people, really see them. Thank you for 9 years of patience, of presence, of being exactly who you are. You'll always have a special place in my heart. Love, Lily." Thomas sat there, tears rolling down his face for the first time in years. This girl had seen him, really seen him, and in doing so she had saved him from the loneliness that had been swallowing him whole. He had thought he was just standing at his post, doing his duty. He didn't realize he had been making a difference in someone's life. He didn't know that his simple act of showing up every day had meant the world to someone. In that moment, Thomas made a decision. He couldn't let this end here. He couldn't let Lily walk away thinking her visits had been one-sided. Somehow, some way he would find her. He would break every protocol if he had to. He would let her know that she hadn't been talking to a wall for 9 years. She had been talking to someone who heard every word, who cared about every story, who treasured every visit. She deserved to know she had saved him just as much as she thought he had saved her. Thomas couldn't sleep that night. The photo album sat on his coffee table and he kept looking at it, reading the notes over and over. Every picture, every word felt like a gift he didn't deserve but desperately needed. Lily had poured her heart into this album, and it showed him something he hadn't fully realized. Their connection had meant as much to her as it had to him. But the goodbye felt wrong. Incomplete. After 9 years, after everything they had been through together in their strange, silent way, she deserved more than to walk away thinking she had been talking to herself. She deserved to know the truth, that he had listened, that he had cared, that she had mattered. The problem was Thomas knew almost nothing about her. He didn't know her last name. He didn't know exactly where she lived, just somewhere outside London. He didn't have her phone number or any way to contact her. All he had were the stories she had told him and the photos in this album. The next day, during his off time, Thomas started his search. It felt slightly crazy, like something out of a movie, but he had to try. He started with social media, searching for teenage girls named Lily in the London area. There were hundreds, thousands probably. Without a last name, it was hopeless. He looked through the photo album again, searching for clues. In one picture, Lily wore a school uniform. He zoomed in on his phone, trying to make out any identifying details. The uniform was navy blue with a small crest on the blazer. He couldn't quite read what it said, but it was something to go on. Thomas spent hours that evening searching for schools in the outer London boroughs with navy blue uniforms. He found several possibilities. He started calling them the next day during his lunch break, feeling ridiculous but determined. "Hello, I'm trying to reach a student named Lily," he would say. "I'm sorry, I don't have her last name. It's regarding something she left at Buckingham Palace." Most schools refused to give out student information, which Thomas understood. Some asked for more details. One receptionist was suspicious and asked if he was a family member. When Thomas admitted he wasn't, she politely but firmly ended the call. After a week of dead ends, Thomas tried a different approach. He looked at the album again and noticed something. In several of the recent photos, Lily wore a small silver bracelet with a charm on it. He zoomed in. The charm looked like it might have initials on it. He could make out an L, but the rest was too blurry. Thomas decided to focus on what he did know. Lily had mentioned her grandmother frequently, and she had died about 4 years ago. Lily had said her grandmother lived nearby and they visited often. He also knew Lily's parents were divorced. Her father had moved to a new apartment. These were personal details that might help narrow things down, but Thomas wasn't sure how to use them. Then he had another idea. Lily had mentioned that her decision to study social work had been influenced by her experiences visiting him. She had said something about writing about it once. What if she had posted something online? A blog maybe, or an essay? Thomas spent another evening searching various combinations of keywords. Royal Guard, Buckingham Palace, visiting, friendship, silent connection. He scrolled through pages and pages of results. Most were tourist reviews or news articles. He was about to give up when he found something. Blog post titled, "The Guard Who Taught Me Everything." It was written by someone with the username Lily in London. Thomas's heart raced as he clicked on it. The post described a young girl who had been visiting the same Royal Guard for years. It talked about how this ritual had shaped her understanding of human connection, patience, and kindness. It discussed how sometimes the most meaningful relationships are the ones where you give without expecting anything in return. For 9 years, the post read, "I've been visiting a guard at Buckingham Palace. I talk to him about my life, my problems, my dreams. He never responds, of course. That's not his job. But somehow in his silence, I found more comfort than I ever found in all the words spoken by others. He taught me that presence matters. That showing up day after day is its own form of love." Thomas read with tears in his eyes. The post continued, describing how these visits had inspired Lily to pursue social work. She wanted to work with elderly people or others who felt invisible in society. "My silent friend reminded me that everyone deserves to be seen," she wrote. Everyone deserves to have someone who shows up for them. At the bottom of the post was a comment section. Thomas scrolled through several comments from readers who were touched by the story. Then he saw one comment from the blog owner herself, responding to someone who asked if she would keep visiting. "Sadly, I'm moving to Scotland for university in September," Lily had replied. "I won't be able to visit anymore. I'm heartbroken about it, but I know it's time to move forward. I just hope he knows somehow that those visits meant everything to me." Thomas clicked on Lily's blog profile, hoping for more information. The profile was sparse, just her username and the blog title. Lily's thoughts on life, love, and everything in between. But there was a contact form. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. What would he even say? "Hi, I'm the guard you've been talking to for 9 years." It sounded insane. She might not even believe him. Or worse, she might think he was some kind of stalker. No, Thomas thought. If he was going to do this, he needed to do it right. He needed to find her properly, meet her face to face, and show her that he was real, that their connection was real. He looked through the blog more carefully. Lily had posted regularly over the past 2 years. Most posts were about teenage life, her thoughts on various topics, poetry she had written. In one post from several months ago, she mentioned volunteering at a local care home on weekends. She talked about an elderly woman named Mrs. Peterson, who reminded her of her grandmother. Thomas searched for care homes in the outer London areas. There were quite a few, but it was another lead. He also noticed that Lily sometimes mentioned specific places in her blog. A particular cafe she liked, a park where she walked her neighbor's dog, a library where she studied. Armed with these small clues, Thomas started piecing together a picture of where Lily might live. It was like detective work, and it took weeks. He would spend his days off riding trains to different areas, walking around, hoping to spot something familiar from her photos or descriptions. His fellow guards thought he was losing his mind. "Mate, you're obsessed," David said one day. "Maybe just let it go. The girl's moving on with her life." That's a good thing, but Thomas couldn't let it go. "You don't understand," he replied. "That girl saved me. For 9 years, she was the only real connection I had. I was going through a divorce, dealing with depression, feeling like my life had no purpose. And then every few weeks, she would show up and remind me that I mattered. I can't just let her walk away thinking it was all one-sided." David softened. "All right, I get it. How can I help?" With David's assistance, Thomas's search became more organized. David helped him make a list of all the details from Lily's stories and tried to map out possible areas where she might live. They used the school uniform as a starting point, then added the care home, the cafe, and other landmarks she had mentioned. After nearly a month of searching, Thomas finally got a break. He was in a cafe in a suburb about an hour from central London, showing the barista a photo from the album where the cafe's logo was visible in the background. "Do you recognize this place?" he asked the barista. Look closely. "That's definitely here. See that corner window? That's exactly how it looks in our cafe." She smiled. "Are you looking for the girl in the photo?" "Yes," Thomas admitted. "It's a long story, but I really need to find her." "She comes in sometimes," the barista said. "Usually on Saturday mornings. Sweet girl. Always says thank you. I think she lives nearby, but I don't know where exactly." Thomas felt hope surge through him. He was close, so close. "If she comes in, could you possibly give her my number? Tell her someone wants to talk to her about her visits to Buckingham Palace." The barista looked uncertain. "I don't know. That sounds a bit strange, if I'm honest." "I know it does," Thomas said. "But I promise it's not what it seems. I just want to thank her for something she did for me. Something important." After some hesitation, the barista agreed to pass along his number if she saw Lily. But Thomas didn't want to wait. He started coming to the cafe every Saturday morning, hoping to run into her. He did this for 3 weeks with no luck. Then one Saturday in late May, Thomas walked into the cafe and saw her. Lily was sitting at a corner table, laptop open, headphones in, completely focused on whatever she was working on. She looked older than in the photos, more mature, but it was definitely her. Thomas froze. His heart hammered in his chest. This was it. This was his chance. But now that the moment had arrived, he had no idea what to say. How do you approach someone you've known for 9 years but have never actually spoken to? He took a deep breath, walked over to her table and gently tapped it to get her attention. Lily looked up, pulling out one headphone, her expression polite but confused. "I'm sorry to bother you," Thomas began, his voice shaking slightly. "But are you Lily? The Lily who visits the Royal Guard at Buckingham Palace?" Lily's eyes widened in shock. Her mouth opened but no words came out. She stared at Thomas, processing, trying to understand how this stranger knew about her. After finding Lily in the cafe, Thomas had introduced himself properly. The conversation that followed was emotional and awkward and perfect. Lily had cried happy tears, asking him a million questions. What was his name? How old was he? Did he really listen to everything she said? Had the visits meant something to him too? Thomas answered everything honestly. Yes, he had heard every word. Yes, it had meant everything. Yes, she had helped him through the darkest period of his life. They talked for hours that day, finally having the two-way conversation they had never been able to have before. They exchanged phone numbers and started meeting regularly at the cafe. But as their friendship deepened outside of their usual roles, Thomas couldn't shake one feeling: incompleteness. Lily was leaving for Scotland in 3 months. Their time was limited, and he wanted to give her something special, something that would show her just how much the past 9 years had meant. That's when the idea came to him. An impossible idea, a crazy idea, but the more Thomas thought about it, the more right it felt. He needed to talk to his commanding officer. Major Harrison was a stern man in his 50s, a career military officer who took protocol and tradition very seriously. He had been Thomas's superior for 6 years and respected Thomas's dedication and service. But what Thomas was about to ask for had never been done before, as far as he knew. Thomas requested a private meeting and was granted one on a Tuesday afternoon. He stood in the major's office, hands clasped behind his back, trying to keep his nerves under control. "What can I do for you, Hartley?" Major Harrison asked, looking up from his paperwork. "Sir, I need to request a very unusual favor," Thomas began. "I know it goes against protocol, and I understand if the answer is no. But I have to ask." The major leaned back in his chair, curiosity flickering across his face. "Go on." Thomas took a breath and explained everything. The 7-year-old girl who first waved at him 9 years ago. The weekly visits that became a ritual. How she had talked to him about her life while he stood silent. How her presence had helped him through his divorce and depression. How she had recently said goodbye because she was leaving for university. And how he had found her, and they had finally spoken. "She's moving to Scotland in August," Thomas said. "And sir, I want to do something for her. Something to show her that those 9 years mattered. That she wasn't just talking to a wall. That she made a real impact on a real person." Major Harrison listened intently, his expression unreadable. "What exactly are you asking for, Hartley?" "Permission to break protocol, sir," Thomas said quietly. "Just once. For 5 minutes. On her 18th birthday, which is in July. I want to meet her at the palace out of uniform as myself. I want to give her something I've been working on. I want to properly thank her for saving my life." The major's eyebrows rose. "Break protocol? Hartley, you know that's not something we do. The guards are a symbol, a tradition. We don't interact with tourists. We certainly don't arrange personal meetings with them." "I know, sir. And I wouldn't ask if this wasn't important. This girl showed me kindness when I felt invisible. She reminded me why I serve, why any of this matters. She taught me about human connection in a way I'd forgotten. I just want 5 minutes to tell her that in person, at the place where it all began." Major Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking me to authorize a break in centuries of tradition for a personal matter?" "Yes, sir." "I know how it sounds. But sir, isn't that what we're protecting? Human connection, kindness, the relationships that make life worth living. I've served for 17 years without a single complaint. I've stood in the rain, in the heat, through ceremonies and protests. I've maintained my post with dignity. I'm asking for 5 minutes of being human." The major studied Thomas carefully. "Tell me more about this girl. Why does she matter so much?" Thomas felt emotion rising in his throat. "Because she saw me, sir. When I felt like nobody in the world cared if I existed, she showed up. Every few weeks for 9 years. She didn't want anything from me. She couldn't get anything from me. She just wanted to share her life with someone who would listen, and in doing that she gave me a reason to keep going." He continued, his voice growing stronger. "She's going to study social work because of our connection. She wants to help people who feel invisible, the way she helped me. Sir, if we're meant to represent the best of what it means to serve, shouldn't we also represent gratitude? Shouldn't we show that the people we protect and serve matter to us too?" Major Harrison stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the courtyard. Thomas waited, his heart pounding. This could go either way. The major could approve it or deny it. He could also reprimand Thomas for even asking. Finally, the major turned around. "I'll need to hear from your fellow guards, the ones who witnessed these visits. I want to know if your account is accurate." "Of course, sir. David can confirm everything. Others have seen her too over the years." Over the next week, Major Harrison conducted his investigation. He spoke with David, who enthusiastically vouched for Thomas and described seeing Lily's visits firsthand. He spoke with other guards who had served alongside Thomas and observed the unusual friendship. He even reviewed duty logs to confirm Thomas's exemplary service record. He also did something Thomas didn't expect. He read Lily's blog. Someone had found the link and forwarded it to him. The major read her posts about the visits, about what they meant to her, about how they had shaped her understanding of kindness and service. The major called Thomas back to his office a week later. "Sit down, Hartley," he said, his tone serious. Thomas sat, trying to read the major's expression and failing. "I've spent the past week thinking about your request," the major began. "I've consulted with other officers. I've read the regulations, and I've read what this young woman wrote about you, about your impact on her life." Thomas held his breath. "What you're asking goes against protocol," the major continued. "It sets a precedent we generally don't want to set. If we allow personal interactions, where does it end? Every guard with a tourist friend wanting special treatment?" Thomas's heart sank. It was a no, but then the major's expression softened slightly. "However, this is an exceptional circumstance. Your service record is impeccable. The accounts from your fellow guards confirm that this relationship was genuine and meaningful. And most importantly, this young woman's own words show that your presence, your service, genuinely impacted her life in a positive way." The major paused, and Thomas dared to hope. "I'm going to approve your request, Hartley, but there are conditions. You'll have exactly 5 minutes. You will not be in uniform. This will be arranged during an off-duty period. You'll meet her at a designated area away from the main tourist zones. And this is a one-time exception. It cannot become a regular occurrence. Are these terms acceptable?" Thomas could barely speak. "Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet," the major said, but there was a hint of warmth in his voice. "Make those 5 minutes count. And Hartley, what you said about representing gratitude, about showing that the people we serve matter to us, that resonated. Sometimes we forget that service is a two-way street. This girl served you in her own way. It's right that you should be able to thank her properly." Thomas left the office feeling like he was walking on air. He had been granted permission to do something he never thought possible. Now he just had to plan it perfectly. He spent the next several weeks preparing. He created something special for Lily, something that would show her exactly what her visits had meant. He coordinated with his fellow guards who were all touched by the story and wanted to help. Even the normally stern major seemed invested in making sure Thomas's 5 minutes would be meaningful. Thomas met with Lily several more times at the cafe, but he didn't tell her about the plan. He wanted it to be a complete surprise. He asked about her birthday plans, and she mentioned that her mother wanted to take her shopping in London. Perfect. Thomas asked one more favor. "Could you make sure you walk past Buckingham Palace that day? Around 11 in the morning?" Lily looked confused. "I don't know if I can. It might be too hard, you know, seeing someone else at your spot." "Trust me," Thomas said with a mysterious smile. "I think you should go." Lily's 18th birthday was approaching. Thomas had 5 minutes approved. He had a plan. He had support from his fellow guards. And he had something to give her that he hoped would show her just how much she had changed his life. He just hoped he could get through those 5 minutes without completely breaking down, because after 9 years of holding everything in, of maintaining perfect composure, he was finally going to be able to tell Lily everything. And he wasn't sure his heart could handle the emotion of it all, but he was going to try. For her, for both of them, for the little girl who had waved at a lonely guard and accidentally started a friendship that would change 2 lives forever. July 23rd arrived with clear blue skies and warm sunshine. Lily woke up on her 18th birthday with mixed emotions. She was officially an adult now, which felt both exciting and terrifying. In just 6 weeks, she would be moving to Scotland to start university, leaving behind everything familiar. Her mother had planned a shopping trip to London, insisting they needed to buy things for Lily's dorm room. Lily had agreed, though she wasn't particularly excited about it. Shopping felt trivial compared to the huge life changes ahead of her. As they rode the train into the city, Lily's mind drifted to Thomas. They had been meeting regularly at the cafe for the past 2 months, and it had been wonderful to finally have real conversations with him. But there was still something bittersweet about it all. The magic of their original connection, that silent understanding, had been replaced by normal friendship. Which was good but different. Where should we go first? Her mother asked as they walked through London. I don't know, Lily said. You're the one who wanted to do this. Her mother smiled mysteriously. Actually, I thought we might walk past Buckingham Palace first, for old times' sake. What do you think? Lily's chest tightened. She hadn't been back to the palace since her goodbye visit in March. It hurt too much knowing that part of her life was over. I don't know, Mom, it might be too sad. Just a quick walk past, her mother encouraged. It's on the way anyway, Lily reluctantly agreed. As they approached the palace, memories flooded back. She could picture herself at 7, nervously waving for the first time. At 10, telling Thomas about her grandmother's death. At 14, sharing her teenage heartbreaks. So much of her life had happened right here. When they reached the area where she used to stand, Lily felt tears prick her eyes. There was a different guard at Thomas's usual post, someone she didn't recognize. Of course there was. Life moved on. Things changed. Lily? Her mother said softly. Someone wants to see you. Lily turned, confused. And then she saw him. Thomas was walking toward her, but he wasn't in uniform. He wore regular clothes, jeans, and a nice shirt, looking like any other person on the street. But it was definitely him. She would recognize him anywhere. Hello, Lily, Thomas said, his voice warm and slightly shaky. Happy birthday. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. Thomas, what are you doing here? I don't understand. I asked your mom to bring you here, Thomas explained. I have something for you. Well, several things, actually. But I only have 5 minutes, so I need to make them count. 5 minutes? What do you mean? Thomas smiled. I asked my commanding officer for permission to do something that's never been done before. To break protocol just this once, to properly thank you. He gave me 5 minutes to be human instead of a guard. Lily felt tears streaming down her face. You did that for me? For you, Thomas confirmed. Because you deserve to know what you meant to me. What you still mean to me. He reached into his bag and pulled out a large envelope. This is the first thing. Open it. With trembling hands, Lily opened the envelope. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Pictures of her at different ages, standing in her usual spot, waving, talking, smiling. She looked through them in shock. The other guards took these over the years, Thomas explained. They knew how important your visits were, so they documented them. They wanted you to have them. Lily laughed through her tears. I can't believe this. I have pictures of me, but I never had pictures of us. Well, not together, but you know what I mean. There's more, Thomas said. He pulled out a leather-bound journal. I started keeping this after your goodbye visit. Every day since then, I've written down the memories I have of your stories. Everything you told me over the years. I was so afraid I would forget the details, so I wrote them all down. Lily opened the journal and saw pages and pages of Thomas's handwriting. Entries about her goldfish, her school plays, her first crush, her grandmother, her struggles and triumphs. 9 years of memories carefully recorded. You remembered everything, she whispered. Every single thing, Thomas said. Lily, I need you to understand something. For 9 years, you were the brightest part of my life. I was going through a divorce. I was depressed. I felt completely alone. And then this little girl started showing up, talking to me like I mattered. You saved me. You gave me a reason to keep going. Lily was crying openly now. I thought I was just bothering you. I thought maybe you found me annoying. Never, Thomas said firmly. Not once, not ever. You were never a bother. You were a gift. He glanced at his watch. I have about 2 minutes left. So I need to tell you the most important thing. He looked directly into her eyes. You taught me that kindness doesn't need words. That presence is powerful. That showing up for someone consistently is one of the greatest forms of love. You showed me those things when I needed them most. And because of you, I'm a better person. I'm a better soldier. I'm better at everything. Thomas pulled out one last item from his bag. It was a photo frame. Inside was a picture of Lily at 7, waving at the camera next to a picture of Thomas in his uniform. Between the photos was text that read, Some friendships don't need words. They just need presence. Thank you for 9 years of showing up. You changed my life. I want you to take this to Scotland, Thomas said. When you're helping people who feel invisible, remember that you have a gift. You see people, really see them. Never lose that. Lily hugged the frame to her chest. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. Then just know this, Thomas said. You weren't talking to a wall all those years. You were talking to someone who heard every word, who cared about every story, who waited for your visits like they were the most important appointments in the world. You mattered then and you matter now. Lily threw her arms around Thomas, hugging him tightly. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Thomas hugged her back, something he had wanted to do for 9 years but never could. Thank you for seeing me, he said quietly. Thank you for treating me like a person when everyone else saw a statue. Thank you for being the kindest person I've ever known. They stood there for a moment, two people who had known each other in the strangest way possible, finally able to express what they had felt for so long. Around them, tourists watched curiously, some taking pictures, not understanding what they were witnessing but sensing it was something special. When they pulled apart, both had tears on their faces. Thomas checked his watch. My 5 minutes are almost up. I need to go before I get in trouble. Wait, Lily said quickly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small wrapped package. I brought this today just in case. I was going to give it to you next time we met at the cafe, but this feels like the right moment. Thomas opened it carefully. Inside was a silver keychain with a small engraved plate. On it was a simple message. To the friend who taught me everything without saying a word. With love and gratitude, Lily, Thomas's voice cracked. I'll keep this with me always. Promise me something, Lily said. Promise me you'll remember that you matter, that your presence makes a difference, that standing at that post all these years wasn't just duty. It was meaningful. You were meaningful to me. I promise, Thomas said. And you promise me something too. Promise me you'll be amazing at university, that you'll help all those people who need to be seen, that you'll change lives the way you changed mine. I promise, Lily whispered. Thomas glanced around and saw Major Harrison standing at a respectful distance, watching. The major gave a small nod. Time was up. I have to go, Thomas said reluctantly. But Lily, this isn't goodbye. We can still meet at the cafe. We can still be friends. This doesn't end here. I know, Lily said, smiling through tears. But this feels like the right ending to the first chapter. The silent chapter. Now we get to start a new chapter where we can actually talk to each other. Thomas laughed. I still can't believe I get to hear your voice respond to mine. After all these years of one-sided conversations? They were never one-sided, Lily said firmly. You were always part of the conversation. I felt you listening. I felt you caring. That was real. It was real, Thomas agreed. It was always real. He took a step back. Happy birthday, Lily. 18 looks good on you. Thank you, Thomas. For everything. For all of it. As Thomas walked away back toward Major Harrison, Lily clutched her gifts to her chest. She looked at her mother, who had been standing quietly nearby, witnessing everything. Did you know about this? Lily asked. Her mother smiled. Thomas called me last week. He explained everything and asked if I could bring you here. He wanted to make your birthday special. And honestly, after hearing what those visits meant to both of you, how could I say no? Lily looked back toward the palace, toward the spot where she had stood hundreds of times over 9 years. The new guard was still there, perfectly still, doing his duty. She wondered if he had his own story, his own struggles, his own need to be seen as human. Without thinking, she walked closer and waved at him, just like she had done to Thomas all those years ago. The guard didn't react, of course, but Lily smiled anyway. Maybe somewhere inside that uniform was another person who needed to know someone saw him. As she walked away with her mother, Lily thought about how strange and beautiful life could be